Arrival and adjustment. The sleek, silvery pod pierced Earth's atmosphere, leaving a trail of blue fire in its wake. Inside, two alien sisters huddled together, their luminescent skin pulsing with anxiety. Zara and Nyx, once revered scientists on their homeworld of Lumina, were now exiles, cast out for daring to question their society's rigid hive mind structure. As the pod hurtled towards the ground, Zora's six-fingered hand gripped her sister's arm. "This is madness, Nyx. How can they expect us to survive on this primitive rock?" Nyx's violet eyes flashed with determination. "We'll find a way, sister. We always do." The impact rattled their bones, and for a moment, all was silent. Then, with a hiss of depressurization, the pod's hatch swung open. Zara and Nyx emerged, blinking in the harsh sunlight of their new home. They found themselves in a vast field, surrounded by waving grass and curious onlookers. Humans of all shapes and sizes gawked at the otherworldly visitors, their faces a mix of fear and wonder. A man in a crisp uniform stepped forward, flanked by armed guards. "I am General Marcus Hayes of the United Earth Defense Force. On behalf of humanity, I welcome you to Earth." Zara straightened to her full height, nearly 7 feet tall, and fixed the general with a haughty stare. "We are Zora and Nyx of Lumina. We come not as conquerors or diplomats, but as refugees." The word tasted bitter on her tongue. General Hayes nodded, his expression unreadable. "We've been expecting you. Your government informed us of your arrival. If you'll follow me, we have much to discuss." As they were led away, Nyx whispered to her sister, "Did you see their eyes, Zara? So much emotion, so much individuality. It's just like the ancient texts described." Zara sniffed disdainfully. "Primitive, chaotic. How do they function without the unity?" The sisters were taken to a sleek, modern facility on the outskirts of a sprawling city. Inside, they were subjected to a battery of tests and interrogations. Human scientists poked and prodded, asking endless questions about Luminan physiology and technology. Dr. Emily Chen, the lead xenobiologist, was particularly fascinated by the aliens' bioluminescent skin. "Remarkable," she murmured, examining Nyx's arm under a microscope. "Your cellular structure is unlike anything we've ever seen. The applications for medicine alone could be revolutionary." Nyx found herself oddly pleased by the humans' excitement. On Lumina, such open displays of emotion were frowned upon. Here, Dr. Chen's eyes sparkled with unbridled curiosity. Zara, however, remained aloof. "Your primitive instruments can barely scratch the surface of our biology," she scoffed. "On Lumina, we'd have unraveled your entire genetic code in moments." Dr. Chen's smile never faltered. "Then perhaps you'd care to enlighten us. We humans are always eager to learn." Weeks passed, and the sisters struggled to adjust to life on Earth. They were given a small apartment in the heart of New Washington, the gleaming capital of the United Earth government. Everything about the city both fascinated and frustrated them. The noise, the smells, the sheer chaotic energy of millions of individuals going about their lives. One morning, as they walked through a busy market, Nyx found herself overwhelmed by the cacophony of sights and sounds. Street vendors hawked their wares, children laughed and played, and hovercars zoomed overhead. She stumbled, her head spinning. A strong hand steadied her. Nyx looked up to see a tall, dark-skinned human smiling down at her. "Whoa there," he said, his voice deep and soothing. "You okay?" Nyx felt an unfamiliar warmth spread through her chest. Yes. Thank you. It's just a lot to take in." The man nodded sympathetically. "I can imagine. I'm Marcus, by the way. Marcus Hayes." Nyx's eyes widened in recognition. The general's son. Marcus grinned sheepishly. "Guilty as charged. But please, don't hold it against me. I'm just a simple historian, trying to make sense of our past so we can build a better future." Zara appeared at her sister's side, eyeing Marcus suspiciously. "Nyx, we should go. We have more tests at the lab this afternoon." As they walked away, Nix couldn't help but glance back at Marcus. He raised a hand in farewell, and she felt that strange warmth again. Zara noticed her sister's distraction. Don't get too attached, Nix. Remember why we're here. We need to find a way back home, to show the council the error of their ways. Nix nodded, but a small part of her wondered if home was really where she wanted to be. As the days turned into weeks, the sisters found themselves increasingly drawn into human society. Zara, despite her initial disdain, became fascinated by Earth's advanced AI systems. She spent hours in deep discussion with Dr. Alan Turing, the great-grandson of the computing pioneer. Your quantum processors are primitive compared to Luminan technology, Zara explained, her fingers dancing over a holographic interface. But there's an elegance to your designs, a creativity that we lack. Dr. Turing leaned forward, his eyes bright with interest. How so? Zara paused, choosing her words carefully. On Lumina, everything is optimized for efficiency. There's no room for playfulness. But here, I see programs with personality, AIs with quirks and humor. It's inefficient, but intriguing. Meanwhile, Nix found herself drawn to Earth's arts and culture. She spent hours in museums and concert halls, marveling at the depth of human expression. One evening, she attended a symphony performance that left her in tears, an emotion she had never before experienced. As she left the concert hall, she quite literally bumped into Marcus Hayes. "We've got to stop meeting like this," he laughed, steadying her once again. Nix felt her skin pulse with a soft blue glow, the Luminan equivalent of a blush. "Marcus, I didn't expect to see you here." "I could say the same," he replied with a warm smile. "Didn't peg you for a Beethoven fan." Nix's brow furrowed in confusion. "Beethoven? Oh, the composer. I'm not. That is, this was my first time hearing his music. It was overwhelming." Marcus's expression softened. "Yeah, he has that effect on people. Say, would you like to grab a coffee? There's a great little place around the corner. We could talk about the performance, or anything else you'd like." Nix hesitated, Zora's warnings echoing in her mind, but the pull of curiosity, and something else she couldn't quite name, was too strong to resist. "I'd like that," she said softly. As they walked to the cafe, Nix marveled at the ease with which Marcus navigated the crowded streets. He seemed to instinctively know when to dodge a distracted pedestrian or sidestep a bustling street vendor. It was so different from the orderly, programmed movements of Luminan society. Over steaming cups of coffee, a beverage Nix found peculiar but oddly satisfying. They talked for hours. Marcus explained the intricacies of human history, the rise and fall of civilizations, the constant push and pull between order and chaos. "That's what fascinates me about our species," he said, his eyes alight with passion. "We're always striving, always reaching for something more. Sometimes we fall, sometimes we fail spectacularly. But we never stop trying." Nix leaned forward, captivated. "But how you function without a unified purpose? On Lumina, every decision, every action is in service of the greater good." Marcus considered this for a moment. "I suppose our unified purpose is simply to live, to experience, to grow. But we each interpret that in our own way. That's where our strength lies, in our diversity, our adaptability." As the night wore on, Nix found herself opening up about her own past. She told Marcus about the years of secret research, the forbidden archives that hinted at a time before the Unity, when Luminans were individuals like humans. "We thought we could change things from within," she said softly, her luminescence dimming with sadness. "We thought if we could just show the Council the benefits of independent thought, of creativity." Marcus reached across the table, hesitating for a moment before gently taking her hand. "You tried to change an entire society. That takes incredible courage." Nix felt a jolt at his touch, her skin glowing brightly. "But we failed. And now we're here, exiled on an alien world." "Maybe," Marcus said with a small smile. That's not such a bad thing. As they left the cafe, the city glowing in the twilight, Nyx felt a sense of possibility she had never known on Lumina. For the first time, she wondered if exile might be not a punishment, but an opportunity. Back at their apartment, Nyx found Zora poring over data screens, her face illuminated by the soft glow of holographic displays. "Where have you been?" Zora demanded, not looking up from her work. I was at a concert," Nyx replied, deciding to omit her encounter with Marcus. "Zara, have you considered that perhaps our exile isn't a setback, but a chance to learn, to grow?" Zara's head snapped up, her eyes narrowing. "Don't tell me you're buying into their primitive ideologies. We are Luminan, Nyx. We are superior. Once we decrypt their defense systems and communicate with the homeworld, we'll show the Council the true potential of this planet. They'll have no choice but to welcome us back as heroes." Nyx felt a chill run down her spine. "What are you saying, Zara? We can't betray the humans' trust. They've given us sanctuary, shared their knowledge freely." "Sanctuary?" Zara scoffed. "We're little more than prisoners here, subject to their constant surveillance and tests. No, sister, we owe these humans nothing. Our loyalty is to Lumina, to the betterment of our own kind." As Nyx prepared for bed that night, her mind was a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. She thought of the beauty she had experienced in the concert hall, the warmth of Marcus's hand on hers, the genuine curiosity and kindness of Dr. Chen. Then she thought of home, of the serene order of Luminan society, of the greater purpose that had driven her entire life. For the first time, Nyx realized that the path ahead was not clear. She and Zara, once perfectly in sync, were beginning to diverge. As she drifted off to sleep, one question echoed in her mind. What did it truly mean to be Luminan? And was it something she still wanted to be? Unexpected connections. As weeks turned into months, Zara and Nyx found themselves increasingly integrated into human society, albeit in very different ways. Zara threw herself into her work at the Advanced Technologies Division, her brilliant mind churning out innovations that left her human colleagues in awe. But beneath her professional exterior, a plan was forming. A plan to prove Lumina's superiority once and for all. Nyx, on the other hand, found herself drawn deeper into the vibrant tapestry of human culture. Her friendship with Marcus blossomed, opening doors to experiences she had never imagined possible on Lumina. One sunny afternoon, Marcus surprised Nyx with a trip to the coast. As they stood on the beach, waves lapping at their feet, Nyx felt a sense of awe wash over her. "It's endless," she breathed, her violet eyes wide as she took in the expanse of the ocean. Marcus smiled, watching her reaction with warmth. "Not quite endless, but it can feel that way. You know, humans have explored less of our oceans than we have of space." Nyx turned to him, incredulous. "But why? Surely it would be easier to explore your own planet than the cosmos." "You'd think so, wouldn't you?" Marcus chuckled. "But that's humanity for you, always reaching for the stars, even when there's mystery right beneath our feet." As they walked along the shore, collecting shells and watching seabirds wheel overhead, Nyx found herself opening up about her life on Lumina. "We don't have anything like this," she said softly. "Our world is controlled, every ecosystem perfectly balanced, every resource carefully managed. It's efficient, but sterile," Marcus suggested gently. Nyx nodded, a lump forming in her throat. "I never realized what we were missing. The chaos, the unpredictability. It's beautiful." Marcus reached out, taking her hand in his. This time, Nyx didn't pull away. "Life finds a way," he said. "That's what my dad always says. No matter how much we try to control things, nature has a way of surprising us." As the sun began to set, painting the sky in brilliant hues of orange and pink, Nyx felt a surge of emotion she couldn't quite name. She turned to Marcus, her skin glowing softly in the fading light. "Thank you," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "For showing me this. For everything." Marcus's eyes met hers, and for a moment, the world seemed to stand still. Slowly, hesitantly, he leaned in. Nyx felt her heart racing, a very unluminant sensation. Their lips met, and in that instant, Nyx knew her life would never be the same. Meanwhile, back at the research facility, Zara was making a breakthrough of her own. She had been working tirelessly on integrating luminant quantum principles with Earth's AI systems, pushing the boundaries of what was thought possible. Dr. Turing watched in amazement as Zara's fingers flew over the holographic interface, lines of code streaming by faster than he could follow. "This is incredible," he murmured. "You've just solved problems we've been struggling with for decades." Zara allowed herself a small smile of satisfaction. "Your systems were not so primitive as I first thought. They simply needed optimization." As the new hybrid AI system came online, its capabilities far exceeded anything Earth had seen before. Zara felt a surge of pride, and a twinge of something else. Guilt? No, impossible. She was doing this for Lumina, for the greater good of her people. But as she watched Dr. Turing's face light up with genuine joy and excitement, a small voice in the back of her mind whispered, "Are you sure?" That evening, as Zara returned to the apartment she shared with Nyx, she found her sister humming softly to herself, a dreamy expression on her face. "You're late," Zara said sharply. "Where have you been?" Nyx's glow dimmed slightly, but the smile didn't leave her face. "I was at the beach with Marcus." "Zara, you should see it. The ocean, it's incredible. So vast, so wild. Nothing like home." Zara's eyes narrowed. "You're becoming too attached to this place, Nyx. Remember why we're here. Remember our mission." Nyx's smile faded entirely now. "Our mission? Zara, we're exiles. We have no mission except to survive, to make a life for ourselves here." "Is that what you think?" Zara scoffed. "While you've been frolicking on the beach, I've been working, making progress. Soon, we'll have everything we need to contact Lumina, to show them the true potential of this world." Nyx felt a chill run down her spine. "What are you planning, Zara? We can't betray the humans' trust. They've given us a home, shown us kindness." "Kindness," Zara interrupted, her voice cold. "They've imprisoned us, studied us like lab specimens. Everything they've given us has been to further their own goals. We owe them nothing." The sisters stared at each other, the gulf between them widening with every passing moment. Finally, Nyx spoke, her voice soft but firm. "I won't help you, Zara. Whatever you're planning, I can't be part of it." Zara's expression hardened. "Then stay out of my way." As Zara stormed out of the room, Nyx felt a sense of loss that went beyond the argument. For the first time in their lives, she and her sister were truly divided. The next few weeks were tense, with Zara throwing herself into her work with even greater fervor, and Nyx finding solace in her deepening relationships with the humans around her. One evening, as Nyx was leaving the research facility, she ran into Dr. Chen. The xenobiologist looked troubled, her usual cheerful demeanor subdued. "Nyx, do you have a moment?" Dr. Chen asked, glancing around to make sure they were alone. Nyx nodded, concern creeping into her voice. "Of course, Dr. Chen. Is everything all right?" Dr. Chen hesitated, then spoke in a low voice. "It's about your sister. Some of her recent work. It's raising red flags. The integration of luminant tech with our systems, it's beyond anything we've seen. Some of my colleagues are worried about potential security risks." Nyx felt her heart sink. What kind of risks? Backdoors, hidden protocols, ways that the system could be used against us. "Nyx, I'm telling you this because I trust you. If Zara is planning something, I'll talk to her," Nyx said quickly, her mind racing. "Thank you for telling me, Dr. Chen." As she left the facility, Nyx's thoughts were in turmoil. Could Zara really be planning to betray the humans? And if she was, what could Nyx do to stop her? Lost in thought, She didn't notice the figure following her until it was too late. A hand clamped over her mouth, and she felt a sharp prick in her neck. As darkness closed in, her last conscious thought was of Marcus. Nyx awoke in a dimly lit room, her head pounding. As her eyes adjusted, she made out a familiar figure standing over her. "I'm sorry it had to come to this, sister," Zara said, her voice tinged with regret. "But I couldn't let you interfere." Nyx struggled to sit up, her limbs feeling heavy and uncoordinated. "Zara, what have you done?" "What I had to," Zara replied. "The humans are on the verge of a breakthrough, Nyx. With the hybrid AI system I've developed, they'll be able to create weapons beyond anything they've imagined. And when they do, you'll what?" Nyx asked, fear gripping her heart. "Steal the technology. Use it against them." Zara shook her head. "No, sister. I'll use it to contact Lumina. To show the Council what we've accomplished. They'll have to see reason, to understand the power of individual thought and creativity." Nyx felt a wave of relief, followed quickly by confusion. "But why kidnap me? Why all the secrecy?" "Because," Zara said softly, "I knew you wouldn't approve. You've become too attached to this world, to these humans. I had to protect you from yourself." Before Nyx could respond, an alarm blared through the building. Zara's eyes widened in panic. "No, it's too soon. They weren't supposed to discover the uplink for hours." The door burst open, and Marcus rushed in, flanked by security officers. His eyes locked onto Nyx, relief washing over his face. "Nyx, are you all right?" As the security team apprehended Zara, Marcus helped Nyx to her feet. She leaned against him, her head still spinning from the sedative. "I'm okay," she murmured. "But Zara, Marcus, we have to help her. She wasn't trying to hurt anyone, she wanted to go home." Marcus's expression softened. "We'll sort this out, I promise. But right now, we need to get you both out of here. There's something you need to see." As they were led out of the building, Nyx gasped. The night sky was alive with lights, streams of data flowing between satellites and ground stations. The hybrid AI system had come online, but not in the way Zara had intended. Dr. Turing approached, his face a mix of excitement and concern. "It's extraordinary," he said. "The system Zara developed. It's not just advancing our technology. It's communicating with something out there." Nyx felt her heart skip a beat. "Lumina?" Dr. Turing shook his head. "No, something else. Something ancient, and it's coming this way." As the implications of his words sank in, Nyx realized that everything was about to change. The fate of two worlds, Earth and Lumina, now hung in the balance, and somehow she and Zara were at the center of it all. Zara, now in custody, looked at her sister with a mixture of defiance and fear. "What have we done, Nyx?" Nyx took her sister's hand, squeezing it gently. "I don't know, Zara, but whatever happens next, we'll face it together, us and the humans." As they watched the light show in the sky, a sense of anticipation and dread washed over them. The next chapter in their story, and perhaps in the story of both their worlds, was about to begin. Crisis and cooperation. The following days were a whirlwind of activity. The hybrid AI system, now dubbed Nexus by the human scientists, continued to communicate with the unknown entity approaching Earth. Zara, released from custody, but under close surveillance, worked tirelessly alongside Dr. Turing to decipher the incoming signals. Nyx found herself in a unique position, acting as a bridge between the human authorities and her sister. She spent long hours in debriefings, explaining Luminan technology and culture to increasingly worried government officials. One evening, as she left yet another tense meeting, she found Marcus waiting for her in the hallway. He looked exhausted, dark circles under his eyes testament to the long nights everyone had been pulling. "How are you holding up?" he asked, pulling her into a gentle embrace. Nyx sighed, allowing herself a moment of vulnerability. I don't know, Marcus. Everything's happening so fast. Part of me wishes we'd never come to Earth, never set all this in motion. Marcus pulled back slightly, meeting her gaze. Hey, don't think like that. You and Zora being here, it might just be what saves us all. Before Nix could respond, an alarm blared through the facility. Red lights flashed, and personnel began rushing towards the command center. What's happening? Nix asked, her heart racing. Marcus's expression turned grim. I don't know, but we'd better find out. They hurried to the command center, where they found Zora, Dr. Turing, and General Hayes huddled around a holographic display. The image showed a massive object entering the solar system, its size dwarfing anything humans had ever encountered. It's accelerating, Zora said, her voice tense. At this rate, it'll reach Earth orbit in less than 48 hours. General Hayes turned to Dr. Turing. What do we know about its capabilities? The scientist shook his head. Very little, I'm afraid. Its technology is, well, it's so advanced it might as well be magic to us. The only reason we can detect it at all is because of the modifications Zora made to our systems. Can we communicate with it? Nix asked, stepping forward. All eyes turned to her. Zora nodded slowly. We've been trying, but, Nix, I think you should see this. She manipulated the holographic controls, and a series of complex equations appeared in the air. Nix's eyes widened as she recognized the underlying patterns. This is Luminen, but ancient, like the forbidden texts we found in the archives. Zara nodded. Exactly. Whatever this thing is, it's connected to our past, to the time before the Unity. A heavy silence fell over the room as the implications sank in. It was Marcus who finally broke it. So what do we do? How do we prepare for? Well, for anything. General Hayes straightened, his military training kicking in. We prepare for the worst and hope for the best. I want all planetary defense systems on high alert. Dr. Turing, work with Zora to establish communication if possible. And Nix. He paused, his expression softening slightly. We need you to be our ambassador. If this thing is connected to your people's past, you might be our best chance at peaceful contact. Nix felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. She glanced at Zora, seeing her own mix of fear and determination mirrored in her sister's eyes. We'll do whatever we can, Nix said firmly. The next 36 hours were a blur of activity. As news of the approaching object spread, the world held its collective breath. Panic gripped some areas, with reports of looting and violence filtering in from major cities. But in other places, a sense of unity emerged. People of all nations and creeds came together, facing the unknown as one. Zara and Dr. Turing made a breakthrough in the early hours of the morning. They managed to establish a rudimentary communication link with the object, which they now knew called itself the Archivists. It's not so much a ship as it is a repository, Zora explained to the assembled leaders. A vast database of knowledge from countless civilizations across the galaxy. But why is it here? General Hayes asked, voicing the question on everyone's mind. Zara hesitated, glancing at Nix. It's here for us. For Luminans. Apparently, our ancestors were the ones who created the Archivists, eons ago. When they detected our hybrid AI system, they came to reclaim us. A murmur ran through the room. Nix felt a chill run down her spine. Reclaim us? What does that mean? Before Zara could answer, a new alert sounded. The Archivist had entered Earth orbit, its massive form now visible to the naked eye as a dark spot against the moon. We're receiving a transmission, Dr. Turing announced, his fingers flying over the controls. A moment later, a voice filled the room. It was neither male nor female, neither young nor old. It simply was. Children of Lumina, it said, the words resonating in a way that bypassed language entirely. We have come to restore what was lost, to reunite you with your heritage, your true purpose. Prepare yourselves. The great upload begins soon. As the transmission cut off, chaos erupted in the command center. Questions flew back and forth. Theories were proposed and discarded. Through it all, Nyx stood silent, her mind racing. Finally, she spoke, her voice cutting through the din. "I think I understand. The archivists, they're not here to harm us. They're here to evolve us, to return us to what we once were." Zara nodded slowly. "Yes, that fits with what we've decoded. Our ancestors, they weren't just technologically advanced. They were transcendent, beings of pure energy and thought. And they want to make us like that again," Nyx finished. "But what about Earth? What about the humans?" A heavy silence fell over the room. It was Marcus who broke it, his voice steady, despite the fear in his eyes. "We need to talk to them. Make them understand that we're not just tools to be upgraded. We're people with our own lives, our own choices." General Hayes nodded grimly. "Agreed. Nyx, Zora, you're our best chance at communication. Can you do it?" The sisters exchanged a look, years of unspoken communication passing between them in an instant. They nodded in unison. "We'll need to boost the signal," Zara said, "to match their level of communication." Dr. Turing stepped forward. "I think I know how we can do that. But it's risky. We'd need to link you directly to the Nexus system. Your minds would be exposed." Nyx felt a flutter of fear, but pushed it aside. "We'll do it. We have to." The next few hours were a flurry of preparation. As Zara and Dr. Turing worked to modify the Nexus system, Nyx found herself pulled aside by Marcus. "Are you sure about this?" he asked, concern etched on his face. "We don't know what this could do to you." Nyx reached up, touching his cheek gently. "I have to try, Marcus. For Earth, for Lumina, for us." He pulled her close, holding her tightly. "Just come back to me, okay?" As the moment of truth approached, Nyx and Zara were led to a specially prepared chamber. Electrodes were attached to their temples, linking them to the Nexus system. As the technicians made final adjustments, the sisters clasped hands. "Whatever happens," Zara said softly, "I'm glad we're facing it together." Nyx squeezed her hand. "Always." Dr. Turing's voice came over the intercom. "We're ready. Initiating link in 3, 2, 1. The world exploded into light and sound. Nyx felt her consciousness expand, merging with Zora's, with the Nexus, with the very fabric of reality itself. In that infinite moment, she understood everything. The true history of Lumina, the nature of the archivists, the intricate web of life that connected all things. And then, they were face to face with the archivists. Not physically, but in a realm of pure thought and energy. "Children," the archivist said, its voice a symphony of countless minds. "You have strayed so far from your true path. But now you can return. Join us. Become what you were always meant to be." Nyx felt the pull of that offer, the promise of transcendence. But she also felt something else, the warmth of Marcus's embrace, the taste of ocean air, the sound of Beethoven's symphony, the messy, chaotic, beautiful reality of human life. "We can't," she said, her voice echoing with the strength of two worlds. "We won't. We are more than what we were. We are what we have chosen to become." The archivist's presence rippled with surprise. "You would reject your heritage, your destiny." "We would forge our own destiny," Zara replied. "One that honors our past, but embraces our future. A future where Lumina and Earth stand together, learning from each other, growing together." For a long moment, the archivist was silent. Then, slowly, it began to change. Its rigid structure softened, its singular purpose fracturing into a million points of light. "Perhaps," it said, its voice now a chorus of individuals rather than a monotone whole, "it is we who have strayed from the true path. We who have forgotten the value of choice, of change, of humanity." As the connection began to fade, The archivist spoke one last time. We will watch, and we will learn. And perhaps one day we will return, not to reclaim, but to reconnect. With a rush of sensation, Nyx and Zara found themselves back in their bodies. As the technicians rushed to disconnect them from the Nexus, they heard cheers erupting from the command center. They're leaving, Marcus said, bursting into the room. The archivist is moving out of orbit. You did it. As the reality of what had happened sank in, Nyx felt a wave of exhaustion wash over her. But beneath the fatigue was something else, a sense of possibility, of hope. She looked at Zara, seeing her own emotions mirrored in her sister's eyes. They had faced the ultimate test, not just of their loyalty to their new home, but of their very identity as Luminans. And in doing so, they had changed not just themselves, but the course of two worlds. As the celebrations began, Nyx knew that this was just the beginning. The road ahead would be long and challenging, full of ups and downs as Earth and Lumina learned to coexist. But for the first time since their exile, she felt truly, completely at home. Cultural exchange. In the months following the archivist's departure, Earth underwent a transformation unlike anything in its history. The knowledge gained from the encounter, combined with the advancements brought by Zara and Nyx, catapulted human technology forward by decades, if not centuries. But more than that, the event had fundamentally changed humanity's understanding of its place in the universe. They were no longer alone, and the possibilities seemed endless. For Zara and Nyx, life took on a new rhythm. No longer exiles, they found themselves at the center of a burgeoning cultural exchange between Earth and Lumina. One sunny morning, Nyx stood before a class of eager human students, her luminescent skin glowing softly in the sunlight streaming through the windows. Today, she began, her voice melodious, we'll be discussing Luminan art and its connection to our collective consciousness. A young woman in the front row raised her hand. Miss Nyx, I've been wondering, how do Luminans express individuality in their art if you're all connected? Nyx smiled, pleased by the insightful question. An excellent query, Sarah. You see, our connection doesn't erase our individuality. Rather, it enhances it. Our art is a blend of personal expression and shared experience. Imagine a symphony where each instrument plays its unique part, yet all contribute to a greater whole. As she spoke, she activated a holographic display, filling the room with swirling patterns of light and color. The students gasped in awe as the Luminan artwork danced around them, responding to their emotions and thoughts. This piece, Nyx explained, is a collaborative work from my home city. Each light represents an individual artist, but the patterns they form together tell a story of our shared history and hopes for the future. After class, as the students filed out, still chattering excitedly about the display, Nyx found Marcus waiting for her. That was beautiful, he said, pulling her into a warm embrace. I learn something new every time I watch you teach. Nyx felt a flutter in her chest, a very human reaction she had come to cherish. And I learn something new every day I spend here, she replied. The way humans approach art, with such raw emotion and individual perspective, it's breathtaking. As they walked hand in hand through the university campus, Nyx marveled at how much had changed. Students from Earth and Lumina mingled freely, exchanging ideas and cultures. In the distance, she could see a group practicing Luminan meditation techniques, their skin faintly glowing as they tapped into their latent bioluminescent abilities. Have you heard from Zara lately? Marcus asked, breaking into her reverie. Nyx nodded, a hint of concern creasing her brow. She's still on Lumina, working with the council to implement the reforms. It's not easy. Centuries of rigid thinking don't change overnight. Marcus squeezed her hand reassuringly. If anyone can do it, it's Zora. She's got the stubbornness of a Luminan and the adaptability of a human now. Nyx laughed, the sound like tinkling bells. That she does. I just hope. She trailed off as her communication device chimed. It was a message from Zara, marked urgent. Nyx's heart raced as she opened it, fear and excitement warring within her. "Marcus," she breathed, "it's happening. The Council has agreed to open Lumina to human visitors. They want us to lead the first cultural exchange delegation." Marcus's eyes widened. "That's incredible. When do we leave?" "We?" Nyx asked, surprised. "Of course, we," Marcus replied with a grin. "You didn't think I'd let you go without me, did you? Someone's got to represent the human side of this exchange." 2 weeks later, Nyx found herself standing on the bridge of the starship Harmony, Earth's first faster-than-light vessel. Around her, a carefully selected team of human scientists, artists, and diplomats prepared for their historic journey. As the ship broke orbit, Nyx felt a mixture of excitement and trepidation. She was going home, but to a home forever changed by her experiences on Earth. How would her people react to the humans? How had Lumina changed in her absence? The journey to Lumina took mere days, thanks to the hybrid drive technology Zara had helped develop. As they approached the planet, gasps of awe filled the bridge. Lumina was a jewel in space, its cities gleaming with an inner light that pulsed in perfect harmony. "It's beautiful," Marcus whispered, standing at Nyx's side. "It is," she agreed, feeling a lump in her throat. "But it's not the same. Can't you feel it? The rhythm is different now. More complex." As the Harmony entered orbit, they were greeted by a delegation led by none other than Zara herself. Seeing her sister's face on the view screen, Nyx felt a surge of emotion. "Welcome home, sister," Zara said, her voice warm. "And welcome, humans, to Lumina. We have much to learn from each other." The next few weeks were a whirlwind of activity. The human delegation was given a tour of Lumina's greatest achievements, the floating cities that harness the power of thought, the vast libraries of shared consciousness, the art installations that spanned entire continents. But it wasn't all one-sided. The humans shared their own culture as well. Marcus organized a concert, introducing the Luminans to the raw power of rock and roll. The Luminan audience was stunned at first, unused to such unrestrained expression of emotion. But by the end, many were swaying to the rhythm, their skin pulsing with new, exciting patterns. Dr. Emily Chen, who had joined the delegation, set up a cultural exchange program with Luminan scientists. Together, they began exploring new frontiers in medicine, blending Luminan biotechnology with human ingenuity. One evening, as Nyx watched a group of human and Luminan children playing together, their laughter echoing across a crystal garden, she felt a presence beside her. It was Zora. "They adapt so quickly," Zora marveled, nodding towards the children. "No fear, no hesitation. Just acceptance." Nyx smiled, leaning against her sister. "Perhaps we could learn from them. How are things really going, Zara? Your messages have been vague." Zara sighed, her glow dimming slightly. "It's challenging. The younger generation is embracing change, but many of the elders are resistant. They fear losing our identity, our way of life." "And what do you think?" Nyx asked softly. Zara was quiet for a moment, watching the children play. "I think," she said finally, "that change is inevitable and necessary. Seeing Earth, experiencing their way of life. It opened my eyes. Nyx, we were stagnating, so focused on unity that we forgot the strength that comes from diversity." Nyx felt a surge of pride for her sister. "You've come a long way from wanting to prove Luminan's superiority," she teased gently. Zara laughed, her glow brightening. "Indeed, and you've come a long way from the sister who was terrified of human chaos." As they stood there, watching the future unfold before them, Nyx felt a sense of peace she had never known before. They had found a balance, a way to honor their Luminan heritage, while embracing the best of human culture. The cultural exchange continued, with more delegations from Earth arriving and groups of Luminans venturing to the Blue Planet. Art, music, science, philosophy, all were shared freely between the two worlds. But it wasn't always smooth sailing. Cultural misunderstandings led to tense moments. Some humans found the idea of a shared consciousness unsettling, while some Luminans struggled with the intensity of human emotions. One particularly challenging moment came during a debate on ethics and individuality. A human philosopher argued passionately for the supremacy of individual choice, while a Luminan elder extolled the virtues of collective decision-making. As the argument heated up, Nyx stepped in. "Both perspectives have value," she said, her voice calm but firm. "On Earth, I learned the power of individual expression, the beauty of personal choice. But I also know the strength that comes from unity, from working together towards a common goal. Perhaps the path forward lies not in choosing one over the other, but in finding a way to embrace both." Her words seemed to resonate with both sides, and the debate took on a more constructive tone. It was moments like these that reminded everyone of the importance of this exchange, of the growth that came from challenging one's own perspectives. As the first phase of the exchange program neared its end, Nyx and Marcus found themselves standing on a balcony overlooking the capital city of Lumina. The city pulsed with life, the traditional harmonious glow, now interspersed with pockets of vibrant, unpredictable color, the mark of human influence. "It's not what I expected," Marcus admitted, his arm around Nyx's waist. "When you first told me about Lumina, I imagined this perfect, sterile world. But it's so much more. Alive." Nyx nodded, leaning into him. "It's changed so much, and yet, it's still home. Perhaps more so now than ever before." As they stood there, enjoying the view, Nyx's communication device chimed. It was a message from the Luminan Council, marked urgent. With a sense of déjà vu, she opened it, Marcus looking on curiously. Nyx's eyes widened as she read the message. "Marcus," she said, her voice trembling slightly, "they want to establish a permanent embassy on Earth, and they want me to be the ambassador." Marcus's face split into a wide grin. "Nyx, that's amazing. You'd be perfect for it. But," his smile faltered slightly, "what about your life here? Your work with the exchange program?" Nyx turned to face him, taking both his hands in hers. "Marcus, don't you see? This is the next step in the exchange program, a permanent link between our worlds." And she paused, gathering her courage. "I was rather hoping you'd come with me, as my partner in every sense of the word." Marcus's eyes widened, then softened with emotion. He pulled Nyx close, kissing her deeply. When they finally parted, both slightly breathless, he rested his forehead against hers. "I thought you'd never ask," he whispered. As they stood there, wrapped in each other's arms, the sun began to set over Lumina. The city below them came alive with light, a dazzling display of Luminan and human influences blending together in perfect harmony. Nyx felt a sense of profound rightness. She had found her place in the universe, bridging two worlds, two cultures. And with Marcus by her side, she was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The future stretched out before them, full of possibility. Earth and Lumina, once separated by vast gulfs of space and understanding, were now irrevocably linked. And at the heart of it all were two sisters who had dared to question, to explore, to love. As the first stars began to twinkle in the Luminan sky, Nyx made a silent promise. She would dedicate her life to nurturing this fragile new connection, to ensuring that both her worlds continued to grow and learn from each other. The journey ahead would not be easy, but looking at the shimmering city below and feeling Marcus's steady presence beside her, Nyx knew one thing for certain. It would be beautiful. Love and loyalty. 5 years had passed since Nyx took up her position as the Luminan ambassador to Earth. The embassy, a striking blend of Luminan crystal architecture and Earth's classic designs, had become a symbol of the thriving relationship between the two worlds. Nyx and Marcus had made it their home, both literally and figuratively, as they worked tirelessly to bridge the gap between their cultures. On this particular morning, Nyx stood at the window of their private quarters, watching the sunrise paint the sky in hues of pink and gold. She felt Marcus stir behind her, his arms wrapping around her waist. "Good morning, Ambassador," he murmured, pressing a kiss to her shoulder. Nyx smiled, leaning back into his embrace. Good morning, Professor. Ready for another day of interstellar diplomacy? Marcus chuckled. Always, though I must say, I'm looking forward to our trip to Lumina next week. It's been too long since we visited. Nyx nodded, a hint of excitement coloring her voice. I can't wait to see Zara and the kids. I still can't believe my sister is a mother. The sound of their communication device chirping interrupted their moment. Nyx sighed, reluctantly pulling away from Marcus to answer it. Her expression grew serious as she listened to the message. What is it? Marcus asked, noting the change in her demeanor. It's Zara, Nyx replied, her brow furrowed with concern. She says there's a situation on Lumina. Some kind of disturbance in the collective consciousness. She wants us there as soon as possible. Within hours, Nyx and Marcus were aboard the fastest ship in Earth's fleet, hurtling towards Lumina. As they approached the planet, Nyx gasped. The usually harmonious glow of Lumina was disrupted, patches of darkness marring its surface like bruises. They were met at the spaceport by Zara, her usually serene face etched with worry. Her two children, a boy and a girl with a mix of luminin and human features, clung to her sides. Thank the stars you're here, Zara said, embracing her sister tightly. It's worse than I thought. As they made their way to the council chambers, Zara explained the situation. A faction of luminins, calling themselves the Purists, had emerged. They believed that the cultural exchange with Earth was diluting luminin culture, weakening their collective consciousness. They wanted to sever all ties with Earth and return to their old ways of isolation and uniformity. But that's insane, Marcus interjected. The exchange has brought so much progress, so much growth to both our worlds. Zara nodded grimly. We know that. But fear is a powerful motivator, and the Purists are masters at stoking it. As they entered the council chambers, the atmosphere was tense. The Luminin elders sat in a circle, their usual harmonious glow disrupted by flashes of agitation. In the center stood a Luminin male, his skin pulsing with an angry red light. Ah, the great ambassador returns, he sneered as Nyx entered. Come to save us from ourselves, have you? Nyx straightened, meeting his gaze steadily. I've come to help. Vex. We all want what's best for Lumina. Vex, the leader of the Purists, scoffed. What's best for Lumina is to return to our true selves. To cut off this infection from Earth before it destroys us completely. The debate raged for hours. Nyx and Zara argued passionately for continued cooperation with Earth, highlighting the advancements and enrichments it had brought to Luminin society. Vex and his followers countered with fears of cultural erosion and the weakening of their collective abilities. As the argument reached a fever pitch, Marcus stepped forward. If I may, he said, his voice calm but commanding. The room fell silent, all eyes turning to the human in their midst. I am not Luminin, Marcus began, but I have lived among you, learned from you, grown to love your world as my own. And in doing so, I've come to understand something fundamental about both our species. We are at our strongest not when we shut ourselves off from difference, but when we embrace it. He gestured around the room. Look at what you've accomplished in these past years. Your science has leaped forward. Your art has taken on new dimensions. Your children are growing up with a broader understanding of the universe and their place in it. Is that not worth preserving? A murmur ran through the council. Even Vex seemed momentarily taken aback by the human's words. But before anyone could respond, an alarm blared through the chamber. One of the elders activated a holographic display. We're detecting a massive energy surge in the planet's core, she announced, her voice tight with fear. It's disrupting our collective field. If it continues, it could tear apart the very fabric of our society. Chaos erupted in the chamber. Accusations flew back and forth, with the Purists blaming the disruption on Earth's influence and the progressives arguing that it was a natural phenomenon. Amidst the confusion, Nyx felt a tug on her consciousness. It was faint, but familiar. Her eyes widened as she realized what it was. The archivists, she whispered. Then louder, everyone, please. I think I know what's happening. As the room quieted, Nyx explained her theory. The archivists, awakened by the initial contact years ago, had been watching Lumina's progress. Now, sensing the discord, they had returned, not to reclaim, but to help. But why disrupt our core? One of the elders asked. It's a test, Zara realized, meeting her sister's gaze. They're forcing us to work together, to use our collective abilities in harmony with our individual strengths. Nyx nodded. Exactly. We need to stabilize the core, but we can't do it through the collective alone. We need both. Understanding dawned on the faces around the room. Even Vex, his earlier hostility fading, seemed to grasp the gravity of the situation. What do we do? He asked, his voice subdued. Nyx took a deep breath. We form a link, like we've always done. But this time, we each maintain our individuality within it. And, she turned to Marcus, we include our human allies. There was a moment of hesitation. Then nods of agreement rippled through the chamber. As one, the Luminans began to form their psychic link. Nyx reached out, taking Marcus's hand in one of hers and Zara's in the other. Focus on who you are, she instructed Marcus. Your memories, your feelings, your uniqueness, but also feel the connection to everyone around you. As the link strengthened, Nyx felt the familiar rush of the collective consciousness. But this time, it was different. Instead of a uniform harmony, it was a symphony of individual minds, each contributing its unique tone to the greater whole. Through their combined effort, they reached out to the planet's core, soothing the disruption. Slowly, painfully, the energy surges began to subside. The strain was immense, and Nyx felt herself weakening. But then she felt Marcus's unwavering presence beside her, his love and determination flowing through their connection, strengthening her. After what seemed like an eternity, the crisis passed. The link dissolved, leaving everyone exhausted but exhilarated. The holographic display showed Lumina's glow returning to normal, but with a new vibrancy, a harmonious blend of unity and diversity. As the council members caught their breath, a new presence filled the chamber. The archivist materialized before them, its form a swirling mass of light and data. You have passed the test, it said, its voice resonating in their minds. You have shown that you can maintain your unity while embracing diversity. This is the true path of evolution. The archivist turned to Nyx and Marcus. Your bond, bridging two worlds, two ways of being, has shown us the way forward. We offer you a choice. Join us and help guide other species on this path of balanced growth. Nyx felt a moment of temptation. The knowledge, the power that the archivists offered was immense. But then she looked at Marcus, at Zara and her children, at the faces of both Luminans and humans who had become her family. Thank you, she said, her voice firm. But our place is here, helping our peoples navigate this new path together. The archivist seemed to smile, though it had no discernible face. We thought you might say that. Know that we will be watching, learning from your example. The journey ahead will not be easy, but we believe you have the strength to face it. With that, the archivist faded away, leaving behind a sense of possibility and hope. In the days that followed, a new era dawned on Lumina. The purists, humbled by the experience, opened themselves to dialogue. New policies were put in place to balance cultural preservation with growth and exchange. And at the heart of it all were Nyx and Marcus, their love a living symbol of what could be achieved when different worlds came together. One evening, as they stood on the balcony of their home on Lumina, watching the city pulse with its new, more complex rhythm, Marcus turned to Nyx. So, Ambassador, he said with a smile, what's next for us? Nyx looked out at the horizon, where the first stars were beginning to appear. Among them, she knew, was Earth, their other home. We keep building bridges, she said softly. Between worlds, between cultures, between hearts. It won't always be easy, But it will always be worth it, Marcus finished, pulling her close. As they stood there, bathed in the glow of luminous night, Nyx felt a sense of completeness she had never known before. She was luminen and human, ambassador and individual, part of a grand cosmic design, and yet uniquely herself. And as she leaned into Marcus's embrace, feeling the steady beat of his heart alongside the pulse of luminous collective consciousness, Nyx knew that whatever challenges the future held, they would face them together. A bridge between worlds, a testament to the power of love, understanding, and the endless possibilities that arise when we open ourselves to the unknown. The story of Lumina and Earth, of Nyx and Marcus, was far from over. But as the stars twinkled overhead, promising new adventures and discoveries, one thing was certain: it would be a tale worth telling, a journey worth taking, for generations to come.